Kingdom Death Monster Pinup Speed Paint. Here we go again. This is the Ramette, so this is the part of the Nightmare Ram set, and this is a just a quick go through here on a miniature that combines like a lot of different elements. So we're starting off firstly from a much lighter base coat than you've seen in other videos, and that's because we've got so much white fur here. But what we're doing is essentially by doing that kind of bone base coat there, it isn't going to be anywhere near as forgiving. Black is an extremely forgiving base coat, but it's going to be much easier for us to do the bulk white fur that the Ramette has on her. So going through here, I'm painting a few of the base coats, and I painted a couple of the darker or more like runny base coats that might get everywhere before I did the skin. So that's the leather and the bone on the horns. Now, I'm going to layer up the skin as I do normally. That first layer that you see there right now, I'm going to let that dry, and while it does, just quickly do her shin pads and a couple of the metal pieces around the lantern. I'm leaving her glasses, despite those being metal, because I want to do them after I've done the skin. So the skin is going to be the biggest component. Let me tell you, faces and skin are the two biggest things, and I always say that skin is part of the face. So, you know, if you're going to do Kingdom Death miniatures especially, which show a lot of skin, that's where you want to put most of your effort. Now, I'm going to layer up the skin quite intensely here because a model like this, where she's not particularly, you know, muscular or anything like that, it has a lot of smooth lines. She's not, there's actually not a lot aside from under the bust and in the joints, you know, the knees and the arms. There's actually not a lot of places that will catch traditional dark highlights. So with this layering, what I'm doing is I'm layering up, and I'm not going to pick out the sort of finer detail until about the third or fourth, maybe even the fifth layer, depending on how soft the detail is. And that will stop it from looking too abrupt on an otherwise soft-looking feminine model. So anything with a lot of curves and a lot of, you know, not a lot of muscular definition, you've got to be very careful layering up aggressively or picking out highlights too aggressively. And you just apply very broad layers, and only until I'm going to separate them here into highlights 1 and 2 do I actually pick out the details. You see here at the end of that skin layer, there's not really much detail picked out at all. You know, there's a couple of early signs that I'm going to be using some light manipulation there on how it works. But here's the skin highlight where we actually go through, and I really do, you know, get in on the stomach and stuff like that and give her some actual definition there, because it's going to make that stuff look more superficial, not as ingrained. So you can see there now the stomach's starting to get a little bit more defined. Any of those little curves and light catching areas as well. We're actually going to do a final highlight here. So that is, admittedly, that's like 5 or 6 total touches on the skin there, which is a lot. But as I said, this model here is it's all about the skin. It's Kingdom Death, baby. And these are pinup models, so you've got to spend that time. Now I'm going through a part that I'm not going to lie, I absolutely hated, and that was just putting white over all the fur. So this was the entire point that we started there with that sort of more bone base coat rather than a black. This is just very annoying and boring. Also, applying white, you have to do multiple layers, even though it's over a bone base coat. So it's just like terminal. It's just like banging your head against a wall. But this stage is easily the most monotonous, and you can see there, much like I say in all the other videos, until we start applying the real highlights and picking out the dark colors and all that sort of stuff, if we're just working with the skin and the light colors, this model looks blown out and washed out. It actually looks like shit. And that brings me up to something that I encounter quite frequently. When you're painting, there is a tendency to try and stop or just give up on a project or overcorrect before it's actually completed, before your color wheel actually comes together with your complementary colors. Don't do that. I was actually tempted during the painting of this model to stop because I was like, I fucking hate this. Do not do that. Do not listen to that voice, and you'll see in the end. Also, brief aside here, if you guys don't use these paint mixing balls in all acrylic paints, you aren't living. Like, this keeps your paints from getting really gluggy, and people ask how I get like smooth finishes on a few things. That's how. Just get the paints mixed, water them down, you'll be fine. As far as the metal and the highlights and everything like that go, just following the light. We're going to do a couple of layers of highlights. You see there now that the lantern glow is also done. The lantern glow is just a single step over white, but I also put the glow effect over the metal. So that is just the lantern sort of the light propagating from the actual light source. At the moment, we're looking at getting now a layer onto the hair and the metal. Just a final couple of layers. I started with the black hair on this one. I'm trying not to paint as much red hair, despite I'm the dibs on the ginger kind of vibe. But the black hair there, just using then a really dark gray mixed with black, and then the dark gray is the final highlight. This fur contrast is going to use a speed paint, very much one-to-one watered down with a medium. I'm not using water, but this is just a contrast medium. And it's just to make sure that we get a little bit with white. If you're going to do a fast run-through of white, usually you'd start from a gray. But if you're going to do it quickly, like I'm doing here, just for a tabletop model, you start with the white. You then use a little bit of a watered-down contrast just to seep into the cracks, give it a gray undertone there, and then pick out the highlight on the white again. Now, you've noticed there that I've just picked out the gold and the bone on the horns and everything like that, and that immediately has made our model actually pop and come to life. Now, the leather is going to keep adding to that, and keeping in mind that, remember what this looked like, not like a minute ago in the video time, quite a while when I was actually painting it, but now that we're starting to add in more life and more vibrance to the surrounding colors, it's tying in really well with the fur and with the skin that we did earlier, and it all starts to look more cohesive. So that's what I said about not giving up on your projects early. And essentially, aside from the base here, we're looking at, and the eyes, we're looking at something that's really starting to come together here. Now, I'm going to show you why I don't do eyes on camera here coming up, because it's like impossible to record because I have to get so like up in the model, and like I it's not a great recording. But you see me add the texture paint on the base there, and now you're going to see me try and touch at those eyes, and it doesn't come up well on camera. It doesn't come up well at speed, but essentially speaking, all I did to change that was I added a little black outline and a flesh wash over those eyes, and we finished the base, which you'll see in the thumbnail. Always great to paint Kingdom Death.